Hello everyone, my name is Mila, you're on my book note, and today I have a video where I'm going to be talking you through the books that have made me want to read the author's backlist or are making me want to read the author's backlist, meaning I haven't gotten to it yet, but I want to. So I'll just go through these really quickly and sort of explain what other books I have and what other opportunities I have to explore this author's backlist and stuff like that, and that kind of thing. So it'll be just like a really simple video, and maybe you might want to try some of these books as well if you read the author's other stuff and you're hesitant, and it might have been like the book that you're hesitant about, but it might have been my first discovery of them or my first attempt at their writing and their world building and all that, and them as an author. So I hope that you enjoy. So first up, we have Emily Varga, and I read an ARC, so an advanced reader copy of her upcoming release called The River She Became. This was pitched as The Mummy meets sort of an archaeologist historian character with glasses. It's glasses for the whole book. She does not take her glasses off unless they fall off. She needs her glasses. Okay, and I really want to read her debut, which was For She Is Wrath, which is a retelling of The Count of Monte Cristo, but it's like gender flipped because the main character is a woman and not a man. And last year I actually read The Count of Monte Cristo because I wanted to prepare myself for She Is Wrath by reading the original, and the original is 1,000 pages long. So Emily, I hope you understand the process that I went through in order to prepare myself to read For She Is Wrath. I don't think you necessarily have to read For She Is Wrath. I think if you're not super interested in reading The Count of Monte Cristo, you can read like the Wikipedia page summary and be fine with it, and then you can sort of understand. But I felt like I wanted a deeper understanding, and I haven't gotten to it, but I did get to The River She Became, and it was really damn good. I really want to read For She Is Wrath, and then I'm really excited for book 2, because book two is probably going to come out in like not even this year, next year. It's going to come out next year because the first book's coming out this year, and I read an arc of it. So yeah, anyways, and then I proceeded to yell at Emily in her DMs being like, hey, is there going to be a second book? Yeah, my mom actually commented. She's like, I'm really like happy and also surprised that like you're able to actually message the authors of these books, because all the books that like we read, the authors were dead. So yeah, anyways, Emily, I love you. Next we have King of Grimdark Fantasy, Joe Abercrombie, and I read The Blade itself, and I also read The Devils. So technically I'm sort of going through it's not a backlist, but because The Devils is a recent release, but I want to continue The Blade itself. I want to continue to sort of Joe Abercrombie's world, and I do have Before They're Hanged on my shelf. Don't know when I'll get to it, but I'll get to it eventually. I did enjoy The Blade itself, but I think The Devils was more my vibe. It very much felt like, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, but make it a little grittier and darker and more adult. Still with some bits of humor. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about the book, but I personally really had a blast going through it, so that's just me. Next, we have the Love Academic series by India Holton, the first book being The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. I read that one, and then a little bit later I read The Geographer's Map to Romance, and now I am like literally counting down the days until we get the third book, and I have been renewing my Libby hold for her other books, and I need to read them. I love India Holton's writing style, and I find that her narrator is so funny. Like, her narration style is so funny. And I really want to get to her, sort of other books, like her backlist. And I find that she's just a lovely human being overall. And she deserves so much more, hype and popularity because her books are so fantastic. So next we have Alexandre Dumas, speaking of Count of Monte Cristo. Count of Monte Cristo, I want to read The Three Musketeers. I want to read all the D'Artagnan, I think romances or quartet or whatever it's called, but I want to read all the Three Musketeers books, because it's not just the Three Musketeers, it's the first in a series, right? And then you have a couple of other ones. And so I want to read all that is available to me, at least in English. I don't know if I'm going to attempt Dumas in French anytime soon, but I do want to read his backlist and stuff like that. Next, we have Emma Wang with Blood Over Brighthaven. I have had Sword of Kaigen on my bookshelf for almost 2 years at this point. Even maybe more than 2, I don't even know. 2 years, right? I have not picked it up. However, I read and finished Blood Over Brighthaven at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I audibly also said WTF. And I think about that book every single day, and I need to read The Sword of Kaigen, and I need to understand what the hype was about, and I need Emily Wang to publish more books, because I find that I love her writing, and I think she's a fantastic writer, and I love her world building. So I need to get to Sword of Kaigen, and then that will finish her backlist, but but yeah, I loved Blood Over Brighthaven. Insane. Next, we have Garth Nix with Sabriel specifically. So I read Sabriel on a whim. I finished Sabriel. I read Lyriel and Aporson, and I don't really want to read the rest of the Aporson sort of series. I'm not super interested in that right now, but I do want to read his, I think it's the Left-Hand Booksellers of London or something like that. I hope. It seems, based on the cover, it seems like it's World War II, like set during World War II, and I really don't want to read about World War II right now. But maybe for Garth Nix, I will read World War II books, you know, if it is Garth Nix. So I don't think I have much from his sort of backlist to read, but I found that I really like his writing, and I really like his characters, and I just love the Old Kingdom, like specifically the trilogy, so much. I loved it so much. Next, we have Heather Fawcett with Emily Wilde's compendium of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, or the Emily Wilde series. So the Emily Wilde series blew up at some point, and I read the first book and I read the second book. The second book, in my opinion, was a little weaker than the first, I find, but I enjoyed it regardless. I enjoyed it regardless, okay? And I haven't read the third one, but I will eventually, and I have an arc of her newest upcoming release called Agnes Obath's Mystical Cat Shelter. And I imagine she has quite a few backlist titles. I think I've read from her before. I don't remember. I think I've read from her before. I think there was like something with like a mountain or whatever. Heather Fawcett. I'm sure I read from her before. I 100% think I read from her before. Even The Darkest Stars. I have read from her before. Yes. I remember. Okay. Even The Darkest Stars has, like, there's, like, a mountain. She has to climb up the mountain and stuff like that. Anyways, yes. I remember reading from her before. So I did like Heather Fawcett even before Emily Wilde, because I remember really enjoying that book. So Heather Fawcett. Next we have Han Kang, and she's the author of Human Acts, and as well as The Vegetarian and The White Book, Greek Lessons, and something else. I'm terrified of going into her backlist because I loved Human Acts so much. I'm scared that I'm going to be too stupid to fully understand The Vegetarian. And also I'm just scared what The Vegetarian entails. And if it's graphic, I think I might skip that one and just put sort of this backlist to rest. Because I'm really, I think, squeamish in terms of stuff like that. So I don't know how I feel about it right now. But I do want to at least read some of her backlist. Maybe not The Vegetarian, maybe her other books, because I feel like The Vegetarian is just a little too intense for me right now. But yeah. Next, we have June Her with Silence of Bones. When I read Silence of Bones, that was her only book out. Okay? It was her only book out. And then a couple of years passed, and now she is releasing her 6th book, I believe. Hold on. Silence of Bones, Red Palace, Forest of Stolen Girls, Crane Among Wolves. No, she's releasing her 5th book, and that is called Tying to Five Willows, I think. And it is a Pride and Prejudice retelling or inspired story set in Joseon Dynasty, Korea, and it's like a romance. And Junher usually writes like mysteries, sort of, in Joseon Dynasty, Joseon era Korea. But Silence of Bones got me hooked on her writing. It was so fantastic. It was so fast-paced. It was so compelling. And I really felt for the characters, and the twist had me fooled. I was flabbergasted. My flabbers were gasted. Like, I'm so serious right now. And then a couple of years passed, and I read Crane Among Wolves. I got an arc of it. And I have an arc of Behind Five Willows, so suckers! Yeah, I'm really excited to sort of read the rest of her books, which isn't a lot, but I'm still really excited to continue. And I love June as a person. She's so fantastic. She's great. And I love her books. So So I'm very excited for that. Next, we have, speaking of Pride and Prejudice, we have Jane Austen. I read Jane Austen beginning to end for the first time in my life last year in January, and it changed my life. I still haven't watched the movies. I still haven't watched the BBC adaptation. So I don't have an excuse for that. I'm really not like big on like watching things. I do like reading. Like, I don't think you guys understand when I say I'm not a TV person. You know, I'm not a TV person. There's maybe a handful of like TV shows that I actively follow. And even then, I'll just end up watching it through like TikTok and get the general gist. That's how I watched House of the Dragon, because I don't have like HBO or anything. And I didn't want to sign up for like another subscription and then forget it and be charged like $15 a month till the end of my days. Anyways, so I read Pride and Prejudice, and I loved Jane Austen's writing so much that I want to read like literally all her other novels. I want to read Sense and Sensibility, Emma, Northanger Abbey. Like, I want to read all of them. You know, I'm going to become a pretentious Austen fan. Okay. And lastly, we have, is it a video by me if I don't include this specific series, and that is Lord of the Rings. I want to read everything by Tolkien, even if it is like edited by Christopher Tolkien, like whatever, still comes from JRR Tolkien's minds. I want to read Silmarillion, the Unfinished Tales, Tales of Middle-earth, like all those fancy books and stuff like that. I specifically want to read the Silmarillion. That is like my biggest hurdle. You know, I want to reread The Hobbit. I want to read Lord of the Rings. Like, I want to read these things and actively like dive into it because I love the world so much. And yeah. So that is it for this video. I know it was a fairly short one, but I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if there are any other authors that like caused you to sort of want to read everything they've like ever written, whether it's like a classic author or modern one or whatever. And if you have any book recommendations, let me know. And as usual, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all my socials, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading!